You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 279. My name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and 5cardguys on Instagram and on YouTube. Coasting with me as usual is John, who is Trade You at Recess on Instagram. Hyung's away for the next couple of episodes. He's actually down in Arizona right now in the final week of spring training, working on the second season of his personal podcast that we also help produce. Go check season 1 out. It's called Conversations with Hyung Cho, and he sits down with some baseball prospects and ex-MLB players that he has connections with to generally talk about the game of baseball. So yeah, we'll put the links to that podcast in the show notes below. All right, off the top today, there's another new card that Topps will be inserting into a future set, and it's going to be the Gold Logoman baseball card. Now, the details are that only 6 players will be wearing the Gold MLB logo patch on their jerseys throughout the season, and they are the award winners from the 2024 season. Okay, so that includes Aaron Judge, the AL MVP winner, Shohei Ohtani, of course, the NL MVP, Tarik Skubal, the AL Cy Young winner, Chris Sale, NL Cy Young winner, and then the American League Rookie of the Year, Lewis Gill, and Paul Skenes rounds up the top 6, who was the National League Rookie of the Year. So after the season is over, there's going to be 10 authenticated gold logo patches from each of these players' uniforms, which will then be inserted into the Topps cards, right? And I believe they'll be autographed as well. So these new Gold Logoman autograph cards coming out next year. John, your initial thoughts. Do you like it, or do you think there's going to be too many Logoman cards out there all of a sudden?
I like it. I
Okay.
think a long time ago when we talked about Fanatics and their ability with their merchandise game,
Yeah.
I think we mentioned something, and I still to this day think it's a great idea. But you know, if Shohei or Aaron Judge or whoever has like a record-breaking season, you kind of take whatever materials that you have. Maybe it's a game-worn jersey from
Yeah.
that record-breaking season, and you chop it up and then you disperse it as one of ones within all of the different products. And we came up with many different like creative ideas, and I think this is along that path. So some can say, yeah, it's more gimmicky. Yeah, it's more, you're washing down the logo, whatever. I think
Right.
it's great, right? Like it's just more and more chases. And if this is a regular thing ongoing,
Yes.
and you can chase a gold logo man, and you can chase MLB debut patches, and it just continues to add to the potential. I mean, I don't want to just look at it from an investment perspective, but for an investor, it adds to the ROI potential. For a
Yeah.
collector, it adds to the unique collectability.
Right.
It's great all around. I'm 100% for it, and for many more of these game use patches that are very specific to either a game or a season or something, and then on card autographs, all of that jazz. Yeah, 100% for it. It's great.
Yeah. No, I generally like it as well. I might be a bit of a purist though. I wish they didn't do the logo man. I wish they used something else to commemorate their award-winning season.
Good point.
In the prior year. I don't know what that would be, but at the same time, I can imagine these players, if they had a special award patch and they had to wear it throughout the season, I'm sure they would be a bit sheepish about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, they're reminding their teammates or anyone else that, yeah, I've won the award last year, and so maybe this is a more subtle way to get it on their jerseys, just making the logo man that every uniform has a different color, gold in this case. But yeah, no, and at the end of the day, you add these. I said there's going to be 10 per player, so that's 60 more Logo Man cards, but there'll be 60 gold ones, and just like you were mentioning, if this is
10 per player.
10 per player, yeah.
Okay, and they're dispersed in different sets.
I don't know about that. They didn't say if it
Oh,
was all in one set or
or it could be out of 10 in
mixed.
one set. Right, right. Okay,
Right.
I get it.
I'm assuming that'll be in one set and they'll be numbered to 10. Yeah.
Right.
Um, but yeah, no, I like the creativity of it for sure. Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll see what Fanatics Tops comes up with next. But I think for the most part, it'll be another great chase, and I'm sure it'll be going for thousands of dollars. You
Right.
know, yeah. So it'll be good to see them build on this. I don't know what else. I don't know if you have any other ideas what they could do.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's a ton.
You
I'm
know,
sure
you
they're
know,
discussing it.
I'm just thinking, you know what the downside, I will assume we're assuming this is going to go into a pretty standard release product. Like it's not going to go into, what is it, like Topps Dynasty. It'll probably go into Topps Chrome, right? I'm going to
Right.
guess. The
Okay.
downside to this as a collector is we've seen the prices of Topps Chrome update, which is
Sure.
generally a forgotten product.
Yeah.
And what are boxes like Canadian, like 5, 600, 7, 800 bucks? Like,
Yeah. That's true.
this is just going to add to the craze of the initial launch and reselling prices. So that's probably the downside to all this.
Good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's probably true. Maybe the next thing they have to think about once they come up with these unique patch autograph cards is distribution. Like, do we just put it into regular boxes and see the prices of boxes go up, or do we do it another way? I don't know, through like their Tops Now engine. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it could be anything other than the conventional rip and chase in hobby boxes or jumbo boxes. So yeah, we'll see. That's a good point. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. So I got the idea for this segment when you messaged us, John, in the chat group about how Fanatics seems to be upping their marketing game with getting more players involved in opening packs and even checking out new insert cards. We've seen that with Mike Trout. Who else? Corbin Carroll, Bobby Witt, all those guys are getting
Mm.
more involved. Now, most recently, the MLB kicked off its season with the Tokyo series. And of course, Fanatics was heavily involved in promoting baseball cards in Japan to continue to, grow its base in Asia. And there was also an article in The Athletic, and it was titled, quote, "From building stadiums to selling trading cards, baseball biz is different in Japan," end quote. And part of the article was on how Fanatics slash Tops was trying to promote the hobby essentially outside of the US. All right. So what I thought we can do is I'll go over some of the key points in that article, and then we can just react to each point on whether we agree or not, or we just want to add any additional commentary. Okay. First point. We already talked about this on a previous pod, but Topps, they put out a 2025 Topps Series 1 Baseball Tokyo Game exclusive set. And it's essentially this year's Topps Series 1, which we all ripped, you and I and Young, a couple of weeks ago, and none of us hit anything huge except that Darryl Strawberry autograph card, right? But this Tokyo Game exclusive Topps Series 1 set, it also includes some unique cards to the set, highlighting Japanese MLB players, for example, and the history of the league in Japan. All right. So my question is, what do you think about this strategy of essentially repurposing a set that's already here in North America, that's already been released, right? But adding new cards to it that's unique and even more appealing to the country where Topps is trying to promote their products.
I kind of like it because I think it adds to the collectability of the niche product, the off product. Because if this
Right.
was a Topps created Japanese set and it had a totally different look, it would be completely niche. Like it wouldn't, for a collector, it
Hmm.
would be completely on the side. Kind of like when you see Panini release like the Caitlin Clark collection or whatever. It's completely different, right? Whereas this is has the same look as Series One. If you did rip open boxes of Series One and it was collecting a set, you can kind of have this like an offset, and
Yeah.
it'll kind of go together with the set. So I think that's a great idea. Like creating these niche sets that still have the theme of the flagship set, I'm for it. And then having its own parallels and stuff. Yeah, some people say it's gimmicky, but I don't know. I still think it's good. I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking the
No,
Fanatics
no.
Kool-Aid a little bit too much these days because I am not disagreeing with anything they've been releasing.
You know what, John? You're not alone. Like I'm loving everything that's coming out these days. So maybe people will write into us saying, "Hey, are you guys working for Fanatics?" But no, I like the idea, and I actually like your point about, if they had just come out with a completely different set just for that very specific audience, it might be too niche in that sense, right? And I think what it does is also like reinforces the Topps brand, the Top Series 1 brand, like so that as they continue to grow the base in Japan and outside of the US and Canada, Top Series 1 will be something that, possibly the rest of the world will look forward to once Major League Baseball starts. We always equate Top Series 1 to like, oh, MLB is about to start in a couple weeks, and that kind of generating that excitement for baseball and for baseball cards. Right. So, yeah.
And I mean, there could be also a specific strategy for Fanatics for connecting the two countries, right? Like if for us in North America, we're collecting Series 1, and then we, I think most collectors would also agree they probably like the fact that it looks like Series 1, so that you can kind of connect the two sets.
Yes.
And then overseas in Japan, if everybody's collecting this Japanese subset, that might get them to now look at Series 1 and start purchasing those as a way to kind of connect the two sets together. So I think there is a brilliance to it for sure.
For sure. No, for sure. Another thing I was thinking is that you can also extend this not just to countries, but to specific cities, right? So think about it. If Topps, is doing their stadium tour again, they've been doing it for the last couple of years, where they're going to each stadium, like setting up their trailer or their truck. I could see them making boxes of Series 1, or it might be Series 2 during mid-season, and making unique cards of the hometown players, wherever they're stopping. Right. So if they stop by the Rogers Center, they can release Topps Series 2, but also have like the special exclusive set of Topps Series 2 with hometown Toronto players, Blue Jays, you know what I mean? So I was just kind of brainstorming to myself, and imagine you have this Topps Series 2, and some of the unique cards that you can pull from the Blue Jays edition is, the 1992 or 1993 World Series card with multiple autographs on it of players from those championship teams, right? Or even like the World Series MVP. I mean, every city won't have that, of course, because they haven't won the World Series, but for the ones that have, like us, back in the 90s, it's been a while, but we are a World Series championship city. You can have the 1992 and 1993 World Series MVP cards, and have them autograph it. Do you remember who they are?
Quick, 1992 and 93 quiz. World Series MVPs. Damn. Mm-hmm. Is Joe Carter one?
No, he was not either. He was a hero, of course, but yeah, not.
Pat Borders?
Yes, 1992. Right.
Pat Borders?
In 1993? Just clutch
Ronnie
hitter.
Alomar?
No.
Oh my goodness, clutch hitter.
He was, but
I'm thinking Dave Winfield or Kelly Gruber.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh.
Nope.
At least I got Pat Borders right.
Yes. He was a DH. I think he played for the Milwaukee Brewers for most of his career until he came to the Jays and won a World Series with us.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Why is the name eluding me? I know who you're talking about though. Yeah. Paul Molitor.
Paul Molitor, you got it. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's super niche, but I would love to have one, those cards, as a Jays fan and,
right.
and, for nostalgia reasons, right? And you could do that throughout the rest of different cities that Topps visits.
That's awesome.
Just free idea for you guys, Topps. All right, point number 2. We also talked about this before, but I thought the Topps collaboration with renowned Japanese artist Takashi Murakami was actually really cool. I was telling our friend Roy actually that I told my wife about this collab, and she was instantly more interested in it because
Really?
she was familiar with Murakami, because he also did a collab with
Mm.
Louis Vuitton.
Didn't Murak didn't he also do a collab with the the baby seat car seat company? I could have sworn he did one too. I think he did
I don't
one
know
with
about that,
Diomo
but
or one of those companies. But anyways, keep going.
I can see that. His unique flower motif
Right.
kind of fit well into that collaboration as well. But yeah, my point is that these collabs can bring attention to the hobby who might not necessarily be in it, right? For instance, I love the dual autograph card of Ohtani and Murakami as well. And, that might be of interest to people who are into Murakami more specifically. And, they just want that card. So what do you think about just these collaborations and trying to get more people outside of the hobby into the hobby in some way?
Listen, if there's anything that's going to get our wives to allow us to spend more money on the hobby guilt-free, I'm all for it.
Yes.
But, like jokes aside, no, actually, no, we're probably pretty serious about that. But
Yeah.
um, in terms of, I mean, we kind of touched on, I think, a couple of episodes ago, and these collabs, I think they're great. And you remember we were I think we kind of talked about like Pokemon sports card collab. If there was ever such a thing,
Right.
I think it would definitely appeal. I mean, I think it's already been kind of appealing. I think that's why like the Net Marvels thing was appealing as a Donruss insert at one point, and the
Right.
the anime version of the Panini, like the case hits. Like I think all of they're not necessarily collabs with specific people, but I think the more this starts to happen, I'm sure it starts to connect um, collectors and sports. Either whether it's a memorabilia collectors or just sports fans or whatever. I
Right.
think they're trying to make an effort into connecting different markets into the sports card scene. So yeah, I think yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's great.
Yeah. It's funny because in that article, they mentioned that at the games, they have like Pikachu dressed up in Dodgers uniforms, right? So, like, obviously in Japan, Pokemon's huge, and there's already that crossover. So I think it's a matter of time.
Mm,
We're gonna see a Pokemon collab with MLB with Tops, and then I think that's gonna be, people are going crazy over Pokemon cards now,
right.
but man, once that comes out, it's gonna
Oh,
be a
that'd be
war
crazy
out there in
for
Costco.
sure.
I mean, don't put it out in Costco.
Yeah,
I don't want
yeah,
to see people get into fights.
exactly.
Let's think of another way. And also to your point, yeah, let's have Tops collaborate with Chanel or something like that. Then I feel like our wives will be fully on board at that point. Or some high end brand, that they're more
Yeah,
interested in. I'm down with that. Yeah, I don't know if you saw too. Before I go on to the next point, Otani and Murakami, they started opening
I think
packs
I saw
together.
that.
So I thought that was
Hmm.
cool on their IG reel. So marketing, stepping up their game, kind of what you mentioned before. All right, let's end off with a couple of quotes from the article, and they're both by David Liner. He's the head of Topps Trading Cards operation. The first quote, he says, quote, even more broadly in Asian collectors, they tend to buy and hold a lot more than American collectors. A lot of what we find in Asia and in Japan is that when collectors find that cherished card, they keep it, which actually for us is great. We'll take collectors of any shape and size, but ultimately, these cards, we want to find a destination and find a home among a true collector, end quote.
Mm,
So for me, what I like about hearing that is it seems Topps is intentional or more intentional about making cards that are for quote unquote a true collector. And it's also not just about printing as much cards as you can and essentially having another junk wax era. Which is what we're kind of afraid of, right?
right.
So, yeah, what do you think? Am I being too optimistic here, or do you think there's some truth in that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm sure they're not getting those stats from sports cards. It's probably the trends that they see within Pokemon because Pokemon they print through the roof. and yet a lot of these hits
Right.
hold value even long term, right? And Roy talked
Mm.
about it a lot, but you have some of these monstrous cards that are like five, six, $10,000, and you look at the pop report, and it's like PSA 10 pop report of like 2,500. Like in the sports card world, you'd be like, what? Like, how
Yeah.
is a card that's that readily available going for that kind of a price? But I think
Right.
definitely shows, um, whether a a thing or a trend in Japan or just Pokemon collectors in general. Like it does appear that they do hold on to whatever they're purchasing for the sake of holding on to it long term or for their collection, and it's bringing them joy.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, you know, it's in on the American side. I kind of go back and forth because like if their goal is to 10x the hobby, which we all know kind of is,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like marketing speak, but they're not actually, like obviously it's going to be
Right.
incredibly difficult to literally 10x the hobby. But if they are going to grow it in some sense, I think, things like getting investors involved or resellers and all of that stuff, like people hate it and obviously true collectors hate it. But there's a place, right? Because they're also kind of generating interest and price movement and all of that stuff and demand. And
Yes.
so I don't know. It sometimes I look at that quote and I go, oh, it would be great if North America was more like when we were young kids, junk wax era where we're
Right.
collecting sets and even if it's a $2 card, we cherished it and it was in a huge, our collections were massive back then. Like I would have these giant boxes,
Yeah.
whereas the most of the collectors today, they like to kind of whittle down their PSA collection to like a small case that holds 30 to
Right.
50 cards of their best, right? So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to make the quote, and how it would best translate to North America, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of to your point, maybe it's just at this point in time, you have to have two different strategies, right? You can't just have a one size fits all.
Mhm.
Like if you know that Japanese collectors tend to keep and hold their cards, then you could print a little bit more because they'll really please the overall crowd, by increasing the supply, as long as the demand is there. That might not work in North America, where part of the collector base also includes primarily investor types, that are
Right.
looking for a quick flip. So, I guess you gotta always monitor the state of the hobby in both demographics in different countries all the time. And I think, I used to always think more simply like, oh, let's try to think of an overall strategy that will work for everywhere. But I don't think that's feasible now, because
Mhm.
different countries, different people in different areas of the world just collect differently. And that quote kind of highlighted it for me
Right.
in a real way. So yeah, the second part of it is like the whole idea of supply and demand. And this is the last point that I want to bring up. It's ultimately it's a question of whether tops they don't fall into temptation of overprinting to maximize profits in that way. What I mean is like listen to this quote by David Liner again. Quote, "What's tricky about our market in general is the demand is well exceeding our supply, which is great for collectibles, but we allocate a lot of product. So what we're trying to do is when we grow the market, grow it properly, ensure that the product's being opened, it's being collected, it's being consumed. We want to avoid any junk wax era. We don't want to oversupply a market." End quote. Now, again, I'm assuming there'll be some who just look at all these cards that are produced already right now and scoff at what he just said, But at the
Mhm.
same time, I really feel it's about growing the demand side of things as well, right? Which is why I love what they did for the Tokyo series. I hope we see Topps do even more of that in the future when it comes to activations, and we see that the supply really does meet the growing demand in the hobby. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if we think about what the future state of the hobby is, they have to kind of go hand in hand. The junk wax era was all about way too much supply over demand. But as we're talking about growing the hobby, which means essentially increasing the demand, then we can be comfortable in increasing the supply as well.
Mhm.
But how we monitor that, I'm not sure. But But yeah, your general thoughts on this whole idea of supply and demand going
Yeah,
future into the hobby.
this is a big topic. I mean, from the quote directly, I think what jumps out at me first and foremost is I do like that they are immediately coming out and recognizing. I don't know if that has anything to do with their accountability, but they're immediately talking about. And I think this is something that a lot of companies shied away from because they wanted to just overproduce and whatever kind of forget.
Right.
But they come on and talk about they don't want oversupply. They don't want another X, junk wax era. And I mean, when
Yes.
you step away, so at first, like you give them some credit, great, and you step back from it and you realize, well, yeah, it's of course you don't want to for the best interest of your company. Of course you want to
Right.
avoid a junk because you're going to just completely collapse the sports card market and all these sort of um,
Yeah.
medium interest collectors slash people kind of dabbling are all going to walk away because they're like, oh, this was not worth it. It wasn't fun. I don't like spending $200
Hmm.
and getting nothing. And this is, and they walk away. So you got to kind of keep that interest moving. And you can by people hitting products and getting fun rips and all of that stuff. So I don't know, like this, I don't have any stats to back this up, but from my general observation, I feel like a lot of the demand recently from Topps' perspective, like Topps' perspective is probably let's see how many boxes we can sell, how much money we're making. And if boxes are
Hmm.
selling out like hotcakes, then we're doing pretty good and the demand is pretty crazy. But a lot of it I feel is from breaking. I think breaking and I don't know how much of it is collectors, how much of it is like degenerate gamblers, like it's starting to
Yeah.
really kind of blur the lines and blend beyond just collecting community. So,
Mm.
and we can sit here and the three of us, when you walk into a hobby store and you want to open Topps Chrome and they say, oh, it's $700, you're like a normal collector
Right.
can't buy a hobby box, but you can enter breaks and
That's right.
breakers can afford to buy it at $700-800 and the demand will continually get gobbled up. Like all the boxes will get gobbled up because breakers are selling it easily at $800. They can probably sell a Paul Skenes
Hmm.
spot for 300 and already make half the cost, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one to talk about demand because I feel like breaking has now really blurred how much really is supply and
Yeah.
demand, and I think that the actual true collector here is kind of getting forgotten, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good
If you know
argument.
if you get what I'm
And
saying.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had that discussion with Paul Hickey as well, when we do our joint pods. And it's kind of this never ending question, right? That, how much is too much for breakers and how do we deal with it in the future? Maybe it is to limit the amount of product that goes to breakers, but at the same time, as a business for Tops, you don't want, what's the
Right.
incentive if you want to increase and maximize your profit,
Mhm.
right? So, um, yeah, so I guess it's a balance, and I guess at the end of the day, that's what makes this question so tricky to quantify and to figure out because there are so many moving parts, right? It's like you were just mentioning. It's not just about collectors. There's a breaking aspect of it, and there's all these different components to the hobby now that weren't there during the initial junk wax era, right? So, and now the grading, you could put that into it, and so yeah, it's kind of yeah, a lot more things to consider
Yeah.
now
Like I
these
mean, if
days.
you were to fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, right? And the
Hmm.
tops, they're generating mass amount of incomes, they 3x their profit. And let's say most of it is through breaking, right? Because in its current path, like if you're really trying to grow the collecting community and people who love actually loving sports cards and not just like these people that love gambling, how many of our kids that love baseball or love hockey are still going to be able to collect, you know, s- top series one or tops chrome update? We probably can't collect because if a hobby box is six, seven, eight, 900, $1,000,
Hmm.
that's not even a birthday present. That's like, that's like a happy graduation gift. Like it's
We
insane.
got we got you
So,
one Topps Chrome update for your high school graduation.
yeah, exactly. So like, are these actual young folks growing to love sports cards, or is this market just being accelerated because of breaking and sort of the gambling culture, right? So it's hard for me to kind of look at this one clearly because I think the collector space is going to really I don't know really what to think about it. Maybe I'm just kind of spewing garbage out of my brain right now, but
like even as we're talking about it, maybe you limit the quantity that not just breakers, but individual buyers can buy. Because, like the hard part of just making it widely more available is that anyone could buy the hobby box and flip it, and so it's like this, it's like just regular sellers looking to profit off the flip game, not just breakers and hobby shop owners. Right. So I don't know if it's about limiting, certain products, not every product, one per customer. You're kind of seeing in the Pokemon world. Like you can only order one box online now just right. because, they want to make it more fair. Right. So I don't know if you just got to test it out with some of the products and then keep it $200 a box. It's going to sell right. out. And that's the other part of it too. Like the demand is so high. Good luck getting one. It's like, yeah. And you're just kind of shut out. And then that kind of leads to disappointment as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I like there's even for collectors, there's no such thing as retail price anymore.
Right.
It's not like your local your local card shop gets a supply of thousands upon thousands of cases and they just sell it to you at retail price. Yeah. They probably have to also go to the aftermarket to buy more cases. And most sure. LCSs that I know, when you walk in, and even if it's like a week after a release, you're paying resale price at your local card show, right? So this whole like,
right,
the most collectors miss out on the retail price, and then breakers are obviously continually causing the price. Because when we collect, I think we're probably taking this a little too far, but when we were collecting, during the COVID era, right? We're going back to like Zion, Jamorant days. Like prices went up, not necessarily because of breaking. Breaking wasn't crazy then.
Yeah.
And prices were going up because collectors were going crazy, right? And
demand,
the return on investment in like a Prism box was $1,500, $2,000 because, even if you got Zion or Jabase, that was like a couple $100 and you could PSA 10 it and then sell it. And if you got a silver, even crazier, right. You're probably making up the price of the box, right? So the chance of return on investment made sense. Like the prices were what they were based on sort of the ratio of return on investment, right? But now because breakers are just buying up everything, the price of a Topps Chrome Update box is whatever it is, $600. And then for us hobbyists, you buy the box and the return on investment is horrible. Like you are you spend $500, good luck even getting $5 from that box, right. Because the box price is not based on the potential ratio of ROI. It's just strictly based on how much breakers are just selling, and then So I don't know, like it. Yeah, I feel like collectors really kind of get screwed in this current landscape.
Yeah, maybe we just gotta wait for all the hits to be pulled, and then things start to drop in price, and you go for the cards that you actually like, the secondary, tertiary hits,
right,
that we can afford. I don't know what the solution is, but what I know for sure, the hobby always evolves, and it's gonna change again. And I think where we are right now won't be where we are in the future. So yeah, good discussion. We don't have all the answers. If you guys have ideas, all you listeners out there, we'd love to hear it. And we could even discuss it more to see if it would actually work in our opinion, or if there's more questions to be asked. Because even right now, we just talked about different ideas, but then we have like 2-3 more questions on top of that.
Right.
And, it's just kind of this circular argument right now. But still, interesting discussion to have nonetheless. Okay, let's move on to our next segment. It's Quiz Show. All right, so just one question for you today, John. And it's one of those questions, we've done this in the past, where you need to fill out the list. Okay? So the question is,
oh boy,
you ready? Who are in the top 10 list of active MLB players whose baseball cards got graded the most by PSA this offseason. All right. And the data collected was from November 2024 to February 2025. That's how we're defining the offseason.
Yeah.
Okay. So top 10 guys you think had the most cards graded the past few months with, opening day coming up next week.
Right. Current MLB players.
Yep.
Oh man, I really need Hyung's help here.
At least
Shohei's
half
one.
easily. Shohei's number one.
Shohei's
87,300 cards graded. Yes.
Wow. I'd imagine from previous year, Aaron Judge will probably still have some decent fire.
Aaron Judge number 4, 21,500 graded in the offseason. Yeah.
Paul Skenes got to be like number 2.
Paul Skenes number 2, 50,600. Keep going.
Jackson Holiday, I'd have to assume he's in there.
Jackson Holiday number 5, 20,400 cards graded. So people are still high on Jackson Holiday, like I thought. Yeah.
Don't know if this one might be in there. Jackson Churio, the other Jackson.
Jackson Churio number 7, 16,600.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, this is where it gets hard if they're prospects. Gunnar Henderson.
No, your first miss. Yeah.
Current MLB. Who else?
So number 3 is still on that list. Number 3, I know you'll get.
Oh my gosh, who would be number 3? How many am I missing?
Kind of the big chase last year. I think you got half. So Shohei Ohtani, Skenes, number 2, Aaron Judge, number 4, Jackson Holiday, number 5, Jackson Churio, number 7. So you're missing 3. Number 3, number 6, number 8, number 9, number 10.
Number 3 got to be Ellie.
Ellie De La Cruz, number 3, 30,600.
I don't.
All right, you got the top 5.
This is from this past year. So would Corbin Carroll still make the list?
No, he dropped off.
Okay. And I assume the rest might be prospects, which is going to hurt me.
Or top rookies, or young guys with potential. Still with potential. People that obviously they're still high on because they're getting these cards graded going into the season as well.
Is Juan Soto
number
still
6?
In there?
Juan Soto's not in there. Yeah. Number 6, I'll give you a clue. You said Jackson Holiday. You said Jackson Churio. There's one more.
One more Jackson. Name. Jackson Merrill.
Jackson Merrill, number 6, 17,800. Okay. Yeah. So now you're missing the bottom 3, 8, 9, and 10 on this list.
Man. Jackson Merrill.
Number 8's a big card collector, actually.
Oh, Bobby Witt.
Did a lot to promote.
That's a good clue.
Bobby Witt Jr., number 8. Yeah. 15,500. Number 9, another Japanese player.
Oh, Rory.
Second one on this list.
Oh. No. Okay.
The other one.
Yeah, the other one. What's his name? The Chicago pitcher, right?
No, the other one. The other. Remember, there's 3 Dodgers pitchers.
Yeah.
That
the
are
Dodgers
Japanese.
pitcher that came last year.
People are screaming at you right now listening to this pod.
Embarrassing. I forget his name. Help me out, Clark.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Right, Yamamoto.
Number 9 with 12,200. And the last one is a Yankee prospect rookie.
Jason Dominguez?
You're right. Jason Dominguez, number 10.
Damn.
Yeah. I think people are excited about Dominguez this year.
His first legit big season, potentially.
Yeah. I think he's going to break into the opening roster. So looks like he's over his injury. So 10,700 of his cards were graded in the offseason. There you go. You did well. You got the top 5 easily.
I did okay.
I'll give you a 75% this time.
I'll take it. Thank you.
There you go. All right, let's end off this episode with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And this is when we put up 2 cards and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. So since Hyung's not here, do you want to start things off, John?
Yep. So, me, I got to kind of go to hockey. Ovechkin, he is nearing that record.
Yes.
I can't believe at 39 he is scoring at the pace that he is. But he's going to break it this year. How many goals? I think he's 7 or 8 away.
Okay.
He's going to do 100%. He's going to do it this year. This is going to be once he gets within 3, it's going to be like trying to give your teammate a hat trick. At that point, you're not even caring about the game. You are just feeding
Yeah.
Ovechkin like he's gonna start getting 10 shots a game, and he's gonna get it this year. Um,
Question before you go on.
yeah,
If he's got the opportunity to break the record, right? He tied Gretzky,
yeah.
open net. Would you take it?
Like
Empty netter.
If
Would
I
you
was
take it?
Ovechkin,
Yeah.
oh, 100%. No question. Especially a guy like Ovi that just loves scoring goals, he will 100% be taking that with no
Okay.
shame.
I would pass it.
No
Just
way.
I want to break it with his iconic one timer off the slot. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
No, no, no.
anyway. Go ahead.
You know, you know the Nick Young meme where he's like giving me like the face?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
If he passed it on open net, that his entire team would be going like this. Like, what do you?
That meme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, back
Okay.
back to the 1v1.
Yes.
So we're going Ovi Young Future Watch Auto
Mm-hmm.
PSA 9 recently sold, I think, around 5,300.
Okay.
Beginning of the season, it was actually closer to 6. So it's surprisingly, I mean,
Interesting.
mid-season lull. It's come down sort of as expected. Um, but a little bit surprising given where he is in the goal scoring pace. And
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to put that up against McDavid's Future Watch Auto PSA 9, which is in and around that price too. I think the last one was 54 or 5,500
Yeah.
USD. So for many hockey collectors, you're obviously like grail hunting, and I'm talking about collectors more in our wheelhouse. Like
Mm-hmm.
you probably wouldn't have the funds or the means to go and get McDavid and Ovechkin and Crosby and Matthews. Like you kind of have to
Right.
choose one for most collectors, right? This is like you're putting all your eggs in one basket and you're going to trade up for whatever you're going to do. So if you were
Mm-hmm.
to have the 1v1 versus the two, like are you going Ovi, about to break the record? He's going to go be known as the greatest goal scorer of all time. I don't think many are going
Yeah.
to get close to this one. All-time legend. Or are you going to go McDavid, who is carving out potentially all-time legend status type of career, right?
Yeah.
And I know you like both of these ones, so I kind of
Yeah. This is a hard one.
designed this for you.
Oh man, there's so many inherent biases though, okay? But this is a good one, okay? But because of my inherent biases, which I'll lay out right for you right now,
Right.
I had a chance to get the OV Future Watch at a much
That's
steeper
okay.
discount. So I'm already feeling crappy about that. And
Right.
I have a rule where I just can't buy into the same card. So you already know my answer, but and I'm also a Canadian, so McDavid, just
Right.
love rooting for him, and the fact that he is a Canadian player, where the hockey card market is still the biggest here in Canada.
Mhm.
Um, all those three things considered, and one more thing, I know we've been saying this for a while, especially when ESPN and / Disney got NHL rights, but they haven't really done a lot with it.
Mhm.
But I still think the game of hockey will continue to grow. We saw kind of like this uptick during that Four Nations Cup tourney, right, in place of the
Right.
All Star, and I think the last article I read was Gary Bettman doesn't know if they'll do it again next year, but he knows that the bar's been raised, and I feel like that's saying that we're not going to have another All Star game anytime soon.
Mm.
They'll probably try to build off the success of Four Nations Cup. All I'm saying is I think hockey is going to get a bigger profile in the coming years. And I think active players, because, after Ovi, gets his record, I'm sure he's going to think of retirement shortly soon after. Right.
Right.
And McDavid's still going to be dominant. Like, I don't see him slowing down. And I think, as his career progresses, it's a risk, of course. I was actually talking with deep value investor Brent on the Friday episode. He reminded me that any active player is still a major risk because you just don't know what's going to happen until they call it quits and all their career stats are in the books. So having said that, I mean, if there's one player that I'm just super confident about in hockey, it's going to be Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
So
No question.
it's a biased answer, but McDavid is my answer.
Now, if I were to remove one of those biases, your hurtful experience with the Ovechkin,
Okay.
let's say you
Yeah.
did buy it at that time and you still own it to today, would you be
Mm.
swapping that out for the McDavid?
Oh, okay. That's interesting. No, I don't think so. If you take
Oh,
that bias away,
right. Ooh, so that's the big one.
give me the Russian rocket. Give me
Oh,
Ovechkin.
okay. Good to know.
Yeah, it's like what an amazing career. And to your what you mentioned earlier, I don't think that record's ever going to be broken again. That's going to be one in the books for a long time. But
Right.
unless the NHL make different rules that make goal scoring easier, which is honestly it's a possibility. Every major sport have changed rules over the years to increase production just to get ratings up. So maybe that's the scenario. But as of now, yeah, I think it's a record that won't be broken for a while.
Right. Yeah, for me, this question, if you were to tailor this to me, it would be Crosby instead of Ovechkin. So I got to kind of look at it from that
Yes.
lens, right?
Right.
Really, honestly, I think if you're to ask anybody this question, whether it's Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid, the three, their prices are very similar. I would say Crosby is the more affordable. I think his PSA 9 is like
Yeah.
42. It's about a grand cheaper, but it's in and around that neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it really comes down to who you just like or who you want,
Mm,
right? Like for me, I pick Crosby, or I've been chasing Crosby because that was a chase back then. So there's sort of like some sentimental aspect to it. And obviously, I've
sure.
loved Crosby's career, and I think he's going to go down as top five. Already is, I think, top five NHL player of all time. Um, but when I remove that bias lens, just like I tried to remove yours,
Yeah.
like on the other side, McDavid is. It's like almost like Otani. It's as safe as an
Mm,
investment can get
yeah.
outside of the injury risk. So you're kind of trading injury risk downside with more upside. Like McDavid, like you said, Four Nations Cup, growing the game of
Yeah.
hockey. Not to mention if he continues on his path and he actually wins one or two or three Stanley Cups, like McDavid could go down as
Yeah.
top two, maybe greatest. I don't know. Like his skill level is unmatched. Like no, it's something we've never seen. Any hockey player,
Mm-hmm.
any fan of hockey will admit this is something we've never seen, like a guy like McDavid. So it's tough. I think it comes down, like for me, between Ovi and McDavid, like I actually, as I was journeying down this Crosby path, I
Yeah.
actually considered, should I switch gears and just, because they're kind of the same price, should I actually be getting a McDavid instead of Crosby? Like I'm still kind of,
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's like 60, seventy
Yeah.
percent Crosby still, but there's a part of me that's like, am I being stupid here? Should I be actually getting the McDavid instead? Because his
Right.
future watch in the future, like you said, it's got that upside, right? When his career's all and done,
Totally.
his
Yeah.
PSA 9 could be like 10 grand. Like we don't know. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm more on the Canadian bias. There is obviously some more bias here, but give me the McDavid. It's not by much,
Okay.
but yeah, give me the McDavid. I think
Yeah.
he's worth that. He's worthy of that risk.
There you go. You know what? I'm obviously you removed that bias, but my choice was still McDavid for the record. So it's a McDavid sweep. It's a McDavid sweep. I agree. Yeah. Imagine. I mean, like seriously, imagine he wins 2 cups. That might be a good selling point for Future Watch. His Future Watch, to tell you the
Right.
truth, that might see a really huge spike in value, unless unless it's a really long term hold for
Right.
you.
And
But
these
there is that
generational
upside.
talents, especially in hockey and like a sport like baseball, they
Yeah.
won't be denied. They're gonna win. They're gonna win. Like
Yeah.
McDavid, he was game seven. He was like a couple
So
of goal. He was
close.
like a goal away from. He was right there. So he's not going to be denied. We now the question will be, can he win two, three, four, whatever? But yeah,
Multiple. Right.
but he's going to win for sure.
That's a good one. I like it. All right. Well, speaking of generational players, again, speaking with Brent on Friday for Friday's episode, I was talking about Otani, and I was saying how I'm just FOMOing hard on Otani right now, and then he talks about like going after the significant cards of players, right? So, example he uses, if you heard Friday, it was like if you went after a lesser player, would you go after his like Bowman Sterling card? Probably
Mm,
not. So why would you go after the Bowman Sterling of Otani? Like you're just talking yourself into getting a lesser, less significant card of that player. So if you want to really invest for the future, you like to go for this case, Bowman Chrome, obviously, or Topps Chrome. You should rather just save up for those significant cards than going for a cheaper one.
Right.
That being said, I said, yeah, but we're talking about Ohtani, okay? So those rules don't apply. And we just kind of laughed about it, right? Because we could just debate it forever. But so that's the context. And I'm looking at Ohtani cards I'm like, that I can afford probably now. I can scrounge out a few thousand, sell off a couple of my other cards. So would you rather have the 2024 Topps Heritage Shohei Ohtani red ink real one auto, and it was a mystery redemption. Okay, so it wasn't in the 2024 Topps Heritage when it came out, but it was a mystery redemption card, and they revealed it in January of this year that it was actually Ohtani, red ink, numbered to 75. Okay, a PSA 10 sold recently, just under 7,000. All right, or the 2024 Bowman Chrome Shohei Ohtani, which is I believe also mystery redemption. Orange refractor autograph numbered to 25. A raw one sold recently, just last week for 6,000.
Wow.
The raw of the Bowman Chrome 2020, and I chose these two because I believe these are one of his first cards that are on-card autos of Ohtani in a Dodgers uniform. So yes, the Heritage is a PSA 10 that sold for 7,000, numbered to 75, real one auto. And the Bowman Chrome is orange, numbered to 25, but it was raw for 6K.
Right. I mean, 7,000 for a non-rookie card is pretty wild. And I mean, it's obviously completely inflated because of the Dodgers uni, which I get. Because if I'm not getting the rookie card, I'll probably try to go for the Dodgers uni, because the Dodgers uni already at this point has become iconic. Like he's I don't think most people even associate him with the Anaheim jersey. No offense, but like, into even visual appeal, I think for the average collector, you look at sort of the old, if you get a third year Angels uniform, you're like, like Dodgers uni, like even though we all hate the Dodgers, but it's still, for Ohtani, it's so weird like that. But give me, me, I think you probably knew my answer. I think PSA 10 is number one, right there, knowing that it has like a great grade. I think that's one check mark for the Heritage side. And you and I, we both love Heritage in general. So I know some collectors will be like, oh, Heritage is ugly, I don't like that design, I prefer the chrome look. And then you know me, I like red ink. Like the red ink is super cool. I think following, doesn't matter what year it is, PSA 10 Ohtani red ink through the years, I think will become really collectible. I think they'll still hold their value. I think at the 7,000 price point between the two, it's already a crazy price to begin with. I think the red ink at just over $1,000 more in a PSA 10 slab is way better of a price than the Bowman Chrome, even though it's an orange. I get it, but I think the $6,000 raw is it's a pretty inflated price. So the price point, the fact that I love red ink, that's a bit more of a bias, and then the PSA 10 slab, I think it's an easy one for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Bowman, and it doesn't look centered, so it's probably going to get a 9 at the most. So if it's raw and PSA 9 are pretty comparable these days. So if you get a 9, it's a $6,000 PSA 9 card. A PSA 10 could be over 10K though, right? So that's something to consider. But if I'm looking at this card, I'm thinking it's a 6K PSA 9 card versus a 7K PSA 10 Heritage, numbered to 75. Unlike our mutual friend Roy, who doesn't get the appeal of red ink, I think he's in the minority.
Right.
Red ink's awesome, and number 75 versus number 25, sure, but they're both mystery redemption, so they don't really have that kind of significant. It's not like part of a rainbow, right? It's just for some reason this mystery redemption is number 25. They have for the Bowman. I'm mistaken. They have one that's numbered to 5, the red parallel, which is, I think there's one listed for 50, 60,000. So that's way out of the price range. And there's a superfractor. So there's a superfractor, a red, and an orange for the Bowman Chrome mystery redemptions. Whereas the Heritage is just a red ink
Right.
numbered to 75.
And you know, like
So
certain parallels are beyond the serial number, right? Like red ink, I don't even like red ink is
sure,
red ink.
yes.
So it's I don't even think people care it's numbered to 75. Similar to like Topps Black out of 67 or Independence Day out
Yeah.
of 76. Like that, those parallels have become iconic in themselves. So the number is like almost meaningless. It could be numbered
Mhm.
out of 125. It could be numbered out of 25. It's the red ink that it's
That's
what
true.
kind of pushes its weight around, right?
Yeah. Agreed. Heritage it is. Another sweep. We're aligned today for this episode. I almost bid on the PSA 9. It sold for 3,300. Oh man, I'm kind of regretting not doing that,
Right.
but oh man, I'm okay. I'll just keep it on the
That's
watch list. We'll
that's
see what
actually a good
happens.
chase card. Now you got me interested.
I might have to pick it up if before this episode airs, in case people are thinking the same thing after this, after hearing this 1v1.
Right.
But anyway, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in week after week, and yeah, we'll have a brand new episode for you guys next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.